Hello there and welcome. I am sitting here with the not brand new, almost new, city administrator for the city of Monona. So I'm excited for you guys to get to know him, and he is also the economic development director. So that is a mouthful.
That's correct. Yes, it is a mouthful.
So I'm excited.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Yeah, for you guys to get to know more. So why don't you start off by just kind of describing your roles for everybody, for people that might not have the slightest clue what either of those roles does.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. My name is Bryan Gadow, and as Kelly mentioned, I just came to the city of Monona about 2 months ago, and I have the dual roles of city administrator and economic development director. My job is to help take the policy that the city council approves and then work with staff to translate that into action. So kind of implementing the policy that's brought down from the city council and make that go. And so I manage all of the staff here at the city, and I'm involved in communications and kind of getting the message of the city out there so people know what's going on and have information about, rec programs and, if there's emergency situations, that type of stuff, getting all the information out to the community.
Sounds like a lot.
It is, but it's a fascinating job, and I have a really great staff that I get to work with. They're all kind of experts in their field, which is great, and they're good people to work with, so it makes the job easy.
So how does the other role, kind of the economic development director, couple on there?
Yeah, the economic development director role is related, but it's a little bit different in that I work more closely with the city's Community Development Authority, which is a citizen committee that really is involved in helping spur economic development. And also I'm kind of a liaison to the business community, just kind of being a public face of Village Hall or City Hall to the community, so they have a point of contact that they can reach out to.
Sure, great. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So even the better, they'll get to know you a little more.
Yes, exactly.
So what drew you here to this particular role in Monona?
Sure. So I actually come from the village of New Glarus, so I was there for about 3.5 years, and when this job came open, it was appealing to me for a number of reasons. One, because it's a city that's landlocked, all of the development or redevelopment that happens in town is taking sites and finding something that's maybe underutilized and making something new. But then more generally about the community, I knew of Monona's reputation long before I applied here, and it was a good reputation. They're known as being a
bad reputation.
No, good reputation. No, but they're known for being kind of very forward-thinking and very kind of progressive and trying innovative ideas out before a lot of other communities do it. And so when this job came open a couple months ago, I kind of reflected back on what I had learned, through Monona's experience in university, and that's the type of community I want to work with, is somebody that's going to think outside the box, going to be a bit forward-thinking and try something, and hopefully have something cool happen because of it.
Very cool. So how did you start, I guess, to get into, I know you said you were at New Glarus, and getting into city work, like how did you get into that, I guess?
Yeah, for me, I've always had a passion for not so much politics, but kind of how government works.
Okay.
And when I was in college, I got really interested in local government, less so state and federal, because at the local government level, you can see the impact of the things you work on a daily basis. In terms of my career path, how I got to kind of this point, I studied public administration in graduate school, and then worked for a little bit of time for the city of Kansas City, Missouri, and then went back to graduate school and studied city planning.
Okay.
I had a passion for that as well, and then worked as a city planner up in the Twin Cities area for a smaller suburb that's actually not unlike Monona. It has a lake shore and has a lot of the type of amenities that we have here in Monona. So kind of cut my teeth for that community for about 8 years, and then my wife and I wanted to move back to Wisconsin because we have family throughout the state, and we had our first child then. So we're looking to get back to the Madison area.
Sure.
And the opportunity in New Glarus had opened up, and so I kind of took on the role as administrator there, and was there for about 3.5 years, and then the opportunity here in Monona opened up. So it was kind of a neat transition for me to come to a little bit bigger community. Any
challenges that you foresee in your future, or anything that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I mean, it's both a challenge and something that I'm excited about, is the potential for additional quality economic development in this community. Like I said before, because we're landlocked, it's often a challenge to get projects, to get redevelopment, because it typically costs more than if you're just building on a flat parcel of land with nothing on it. So I think the challenge for Monona is finding the right developers that we want to partner with that have the right type of projects that make sense for the community. I mean, there are certain areas where the big riverfront project, with the height and scale of that, would not make sense pretty much anywhere else in town. So if we're looking along like Monona Drive or the Broadway corridors, those are going to be different type of redevelopments, different scale, different sizes. So it's finding the right development partners to work with or take on an opportunity and think creatively about how they can do something. So that's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be a fun opportunity over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. I'll have to check in often.
Yes, we hope as a result of the Riverfront project that we will see more kind of spin-off development that happens through the other corridors. So
yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have any advice to give aspiring leaders?
I do. This is advice that would apply if you were thinking about working in local government or any profession. For me, before I took this job, one of the things that I did is I spent a lot of time doing my homework on the community to make sure that it was the right fit for me and that I understood the issues that this community was going to be working on. So I knew that going in, not only to my interview, but also, in accepting the job. And I think that's very true for, whether you work for a community or you work for a firm in the private sector, taking the time to really understand, the market or the community that you're working in, taking the time to reach out to people in that company or that community, talk to maybe some of the people you'd be working with or working under to get a better sense of what their job entails, what type of issues you're walking into, and make sure it's a good fit.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to be working day in and day out on that community, you want to have a good connection to it and feel good about it, where it's going. So that makes total sense. Do you have any goals that you're trying to work toward that you would like to share? Yeah,
I mean, as I said, I'm only 2 months on the job, but I've got a couple of ideas in my head of things that projects I'd like to take on or work with staff here to implement. One of them is, I think there's a lot of area and opportunity for us to enhance our communication efforts throughout the community.
Sure.
I know that we have the wonderful radio station that we utilize, but there's ways that we can do additional spots on the radio to give people information about different programs or projects that are coming down the pike. We're taking a look at our community branding. So is there a way that we can better package what the city's message is and kind of continue to reinforce that throughout the community? Social media is a big piece, and I think we're taking a hard look at, is there a way that we can do a better job of social media communication?
Well, let's switch gears a little bit. And what's something that maybe most people don't know about you, Bryan?
Yeah, most people probably don't know me because I've only been here and I'm still trying to get out there in the community and meet people. But I'm actually an avid home brewer. It's kind of a hobby of mine.
Okay. Because you came from New Glarus?
Yeah, well, it had nothing to it's because I was in Minnesota, and Minnesota is a big beer community as well. But yeah, it was kind of my one, if I want to kind of decompress hobby, because it's kind of neat. It's like a science experiment. You have all these ingredients, and it takes time, and it takes you got to be very careful with how you handle things, make sure everything's clean, and so it's just kind of a nice, relaxing hobby, if you call it that, and you get something out of it at the end with a beverage. So
cool. Well, I'll have to try some.
Yeah.
I used to work with somebody that did that, so it's kind of cool. Yeah. Any memorable experience that you've had? I mean, working in different communities, cities. You've been in Missouri, you've been in Minnesota, you've been in New Glarus, now you're in Monona. Anything that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the great fortune to work on a lot of projects from large scale, $250 million redevelopments similar to what we have going on at the Yahara Commons project, down to real small, somebody's redoing a historic house. But the one thing that's really stuck with me over the years is a project I got to work on in Wayzata, Minnesota, which is the lakeshore community I used to work for. We had applied for a grant from the Minnesota DNR to do a prairie or a stormwater pond restoration project down by the lakefront. And we were able to get a $10,000 or $20,000 grant to replant some native vegetation to increase and make the ponds filter stormwater better. And what was exciting about that project is not only did we get the grant money, but then we got a group of community volunteers together to actually go on a weekend and do all the planting, and I got to be part of that. So again, taking, getting state and federal money to work on something, but then getting local citizens who are as passionate about the topic as you are together to work on something on their own free time. that's what's exciting about local government, is making those connections with people, above and beyond kind of the daily grind, but realizing that you're all in it together to make the community better.
I guess we kind of have talked about Monona, but is there one thing in particular that you can think of that you love most about the community here?
Well, I'll be honest with you. It's a passionate community. It seems very close knit, and everyone, really, you may disagree about different things, but everyone seems like they really care for each other. And I wasn't here, obviously, for all the events that happened this summer with the flooding, but what I've heard from everyone that I've talked to is just how people kind of rallied together to help their neighbors in situations where somebody had property damage or something else. And that, to me, is a really unique aspect about Monona that you wouldn't find necessarily in every other community across the state or in Dane County. So there really is this kind of small town character for Monona, even though it is part of a much larger urban center, which is neat. I mean, you kind of got best of both worlds, and I think just everything that happened this summer kind of reinforced to people that caring for your neighbor and understanding what they're going through really can make a big impact.
And then I guess my favorite question is, what does the future hold? I know there's one program that I've asked you to maybe give us a teaser about that I'm hoping you have maybe some information on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, generally speaking, I think the future is bright for me. I think that we have the opportunity to do a lot of great things here and really be a model for a lot of different areas. But a program that we are in the midst of kind of restarting is a program called Renew Monona. And it was a program that we had maybe about 5 or so years ago, which was funded through what's called tax increment financing. And it's a kind of a complicated funding system, but basically when we do a development project, you're allowed to keep a tax increment finance district open for 27 years. And then state law allows you to keep it open 1 extra year, and you capture all of the excess tax increment, and you can put it towards affordable housing projects. And so that's what we did about 5 years ago. We had closed a tax increment finance district, took that excess increment, created the Renew Monona program, and at the time we were doing smaller loans for first-time home buyers and for improvements to energy efficiency and just general remodeling improvements to homes. So we are in the process of reinstituting that program, getting it back and running. We have a funding source coming from closing another TIF district. So we are kind of setting up the policy about what type of projects can be funded, what type of eligibility criteria somebody would have to meet. So our hope is to have that all written and finalized probably in the next 3 months.
Okay.
And then we'll have kind of more formalized rollout to the community of here's what the program is, here's the different types of projects you can apply for, and the deadlines for applying and all that stuff. But generally speaking, the things that we'd be looking to fund are first-time home buyers, that are looking to buy homes that are, in the $300,000 or less range, give or take. For people that want to make improvements to their existing homes for energy efficiency reasons, and then those that want to do some sort of they have a great house that they like, but it doesn't meet their needs from a space standpoint, so they're adding an addition or doing something else like that. So really trying to help maintain and enhance the housing stock that exists in Monona. And kind of going back to what's great about Monona, I think, to be honest with you, that's one thing that I've noticed in the last couple of weeks is how great of a housing stock we do have. We have a good mixture of single family, multifamily, and so it's just making sure we help enhance the single family housing stock that we have.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah,
I'll be looking forward to getting some
we'll,
the final details on all of that. That'll be fun to have.
We'll absolutely do some media rollout on here's what it is and all that stuff hopefully in the next couple of months.
Wonderful. Well, Bryan, it was really good to know you, and I think you are a wonderful asset here.
Well, thank you very
much. I think we're very lucky to have you. So thanks so much for doing the interview. And if you have any questions, you can always contact him, I'm sure, or me, and we can get you those questions answered. So thank you again, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time. I'm Kelly Doyle with Realty Executives and All Things Monona. Bye.